Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today in Italy with Lamborghini to take a first look at this, the new HURACAN Tecnica, the latest iteration of Lamborghini's V10 mid-engine supercar. Now to explore it, we're actually here at their Squadra Corsa racing division, surrounded by some of the new Essenza SCV12s, the Gallardo race cars and plenty more, but we're going to be exploring this in full. We'll talk about the design, the aerodynamics and the visual side. You'll spot some cues around the front from the Sian, their hypercar. We'll go through the technical side of it, where they've incorporated numerous elements from the STO, the Super Trofeo Omologato, but we'll also take a look at the interior, the engine bay, and plenty more about this. A first look in full then, here today at the new Lamborghini HURACAN Tecnica. This is the car then. Let's go through this in full, as I said. We'll explore it with a quick walk around to begin and then start diving into things in a little bit more detail. But the HURACAN launched a number of years back now. We've seen a few different iterations of it, including the major update that came with the Evo, and in particular the Evo rear-wheel drive. Now since that car, we've had the arrival of the Super Trofeo Omologato, based of course on the race car, the Super Trofeo itself homologated for the road. This sits between them. The Tecnica sits between the Evo rear-wheel drive and the STO, offering a car that's a little bit more versatile, but still incorporating many of the dynamic elements that make the STO quite so special. You'll see, for example, a fixed wing at the rear, and you'll notice the aggressive tailpipes. Around the front, the design is sharpened. It has new technologies for the brake cooling. We've got lightweight center lock wheels. We've got much more going on in terms of aerodynamics, offering 35% more downforce while reducing the drag by 20% as well compared to the rear-wheel drive. It's a much lighter car using carbon fiber components. For example, the bonnet is full carbon and can be left exposed should you wish, as is the engine bay cover towards the back, for a total weight of 1,379 kilos, only 40 kilos more than the STO, which has significantly more by way of carbon fiber body panels. So to go through this then in more detail, let's start right at the very front. In some ways it's a familiar face, the familiar eyes with those shapes inside them, but this is heavily reworked and redesigned. So when you look at it, you can see these ypsilon shapes, these Y shapes around the front, similar to those found on the Sian, the hybrid few-off series hypercar. Then you have these blades beneath, which remind me of the Aventador S, the updated version of the V12, big member of the family. But this is all opening for cooling, as you can see. Radiators inside, the airflow that's managed going through. But it gives this very low, very wide, very sporty looking nose. It's based on the width and platform of the Evo rear-wheel drive as opposed to the STO, so it's slightly narrower in comparison. And this particular colour, by the way, is called Verde Selvens, this metallic green that we're looking at here, the launch specification. As we come round to the side with the wheels here, new design, 20-inch wheels front and rear with the regular Potenza sport tyres or the optional Potenza race tyres, but you can spot those 6 hexagonal shapes that they have within. The centre lock wheel, this is the upgrade wheel option. Carbon ceramic brakes as standard, and new brake cooling. That's something they've learnt and changed the system for keeping those brakes cool on the move. Obviously plenty of performance on tap from this. Now a heavy redesign is here, this shape, this design for the cooling. You can see the vents here, the intakes for the cooling that goes through towards the V10 that you have in the back. But this has been inspired by the Essenza SCV12, gives a little bit more visual length to the car with this sloping line heading down towards the back. More in line, I would say, with the V12 style shape and platform. It's rear driven. It is a rear wheel drive car. We're talking LP640-2 for this, 640 horsepower. -2, the traditional rear wheel drive designation, we could say, as opposed to the -4, through that 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, which is absolutely fantastic, as I can tell you from my experience with my STO. But when you come here, it's very different. Now the Tecnica is slightly longer than the regular Evo rear-wheel drive, which will continue alongside it in the line, given the extra aero that you have back here. So we've got a fixed spoiler across the top, just sitting slightly above the rear deck. Some openings here for the cooling, exhaust system tucked just within. Then you've got these hexagonal exhaust tailpipes, finished very aggressively, the way these are shaped and presented at the back. And down below, this diffuser that wraps out towards the rear, obviously helping with the downforce, keeping the car planted, because the ethos is still one of being exciting to drive on the track, being exciting to drive on a mountain pass, but more pointed towards the daily usability in some extent. And I'll talk more about that when we're inside the car as well. So back here, as I mentioned, the exposed carbon fibre engine bay lid. Inside, that 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10, making 640 horsepower, 565 newton meters, enough to propel this car from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, or 62 miles per hour, in only 3.2 seconds, and to go 0 to 200 kilometers an hour, or 124 miles per hour, in just 9.1 seconds, right on the heels of the STO, and it will go to a top speed of 325 kilometers per hour, which is 202 miles per hour, so slightly higher given the reduced drag at higher speeds that comes from a car that is very, very aero-based. Now, there are a lot of different things that customers can personalize with the specifications of the new Technica, and working with Ad Personam means access to a range of over 200 different paint colors. Of course, as I mentioned, you can have that exposed carbon fiber bonnet, and talking about the bonnet, you'll notice it's a different look, it's a different shape. You have these lines giving it more sporty character, you have that gloss black section up towards the top, but if you have it in the exposed carbon for the bonnet, you can go beyond that and add the optional painted livery over the top of the car to give more contrast, where you've got the gloss black for the A-pillars and up over the entirety of the roof towards this very nice engine bay in carbon fibre as well. This would be in gloss black by default, or with the upgrade you get the full visual carbon fibre looking amazing. We've got more of the contrast down on the rear bumper. You can actually go through Ad Personam and, like on the STO, add a completely contrasting colour to give an even more visual dynamic look to the entirety of the car overall. But if we come and take a look at the inside of the Technica, we've got the sport seats, we've got lots of Alcantara, lots of carbon fibre, including the full carbon fibre door cards, akin to the STO. That's an upgrade over the standard. We've got the door release pull like the STO, we've got the grab handles, and plenty more that really make it give a very sporty look. We've got these sport seats, which were introduced a year or two back, available in the STO. You can also have the more comfort seats, or go the full way and have the fixed buckets, for example, as found in the Performante, or also available for the STO. But the seats for this car have a few different trim elements, and I want to turn on my torch very briefly to show you this. In the center of the backrest, you have that laser cut Alcantara panel, which gives you that effect with a different material underneath it. We also have the Technica embroidery on the side bolsters, and the Lamborghini embroidery up top on the headrests as well. And you'll also see inside, we've even got the track telemetry cameras, one mounted there on the bulkhead. There's also one sitting just in front of the rear view mirror as well, that will give a connection to the track telemetry software, which all runs through the central infotainment system. We've got an Alcantara steering wheel, we've got this split of the leather with the matching stitching as well. Obviously you can specify and customize all of this to your heart's content. And believe me, from my experience with the STO, there are so many different elements that you can make completely bespoke. But let's have a look right inside the Technica. On the upper dashboard, we've got the carbon fibre air vent surrounds. For the start button, you can press it through the flap or open that up if you'd like all of the drama. Then with the ignition on, we've got the digital dashboard, we've got the very prominent rev counter currently in Strada mode. With the anima toggle on the steering wheel, you can select your different driving modes, pop it up to sport to make it more lively, or go all the way into Corsa, which is your racetrack mode. Everything's even sharper, the throttle response, the traction control, the sound of the exhaust, different colours with the different modes on the display as well. Or for more daily driving, turn it back down, either into sport or into Strada, which has softer suspension as well. Everything to make it the more usable supercar, let's say. Now, there's a carryover from the STO in the infotainment. In Vehiculo, we then have the option for LDVI, the Lamborghini Dinamica Vehiculo Integrata, which shows us our brake temperatures and our tyre pressures, and more track telemetry data in there as well, carried over, as I said, from the Super Trofeo Omologato. We do have in the Technica the controls above, including the button and switch to raise the nose lift if you want to lift up the front end, but we also have these quite nice details. The reverse, for example, is that selector above the park and manual. You also have the lovely carbon fibre shift paddles attached to the column with all of the cutouts, which match those hexagonal shapes that you see pretty much everywhere on the airbag cover, you name it, around this car. Even the instrument cluster bezels, just every possible detail. Those extended paddles feel really good when you're shifting with that V10, believe me, but even more hexagonals everywhere. The switches at the side of the steering wheel, even the speaker grills, for example. But if we step back out, let's go and have a look inside the engine bay. So pop open the lever down in the footwell and come towards the rear to take a better look at this. You've got the firing order of the cylinders of the V10 labelled just there. If we open this up, get a great view inside. We've got the traditional black top as opposed to the bronze one that you find on the more track-focused cars, like, for example, the Performante, the STO and the SVJ. But on the underside also, the exposed carbon fibre always looking amazing. And you'll see there's a slight change to the aero here, in fact. These new setups at the very back to help again with cooling, to keep everything in check. Obviously running 640 horsepower through that V10, basically set in the same way as in the Evo and in the STO. Slight reconfigurations obviously where needed to give it a touch of a different configuration, especially in terms of suspension and ride, for example. I also want to pop open the front very quickly. Just come around to that to show you the underside of this, which is carbon fiber. So under here, as you can see again, looks amazing. Exposed carbon fiber, and you can have that on the top surface should you wish as well. What do we have? Verde Selvans, the color of this particular car, apologies for the reflection, plus a little bit of storage space. You have the return of the trunk up front, which you lose with the STO because of the air vents that run through to help keep the front a little bit more planted down. So one change and different touch in respect to that. Let's close this back and making it, I suppose, a touch more usable, a touch more drivable. It's one of the things I find with the STO. If you want to take anything, you need to make sure there's somebody with you with a separate car to be able to do so. Just turn that off for the moment. You do have the dedicated graphics, by the way. As you can see, the Huracan Technica logo up there on this nearly new car, 65 kilometers. First look, obviously, at it, but having some luggage space and I believe a slightly softer setup in terms of the ride will change the dynamics and usability of the car in a very big way. So it's quite a dramatic change with those design elements that you see from other models, really, I suppose, distinguishing the Technica in the lineup as opposed to the Edizione Technica that launched with the Gallardo, which I remember seeing being launched, well, probably about 11 and a half, 12 years ago now, something like that, which was much more of a visual color change, let's say, to the LP570 Superleggera, whereas this is very much a new car, pretty much in its entirety, as you can see, in terms of the visual and design elements. Given the location of choice for the reveal of the Technica is here at Lamborghini's Squadra Corsa Racing Division's HQ, we are surrounded by some very special Lamborghini race cars and some surprises. So let's go for a quick little walk around. We have the Huracan GT3 Evo. There are a few of the new Essenza SCV12s, the customer race cars effectively, which are all undercover, looking out of sight for the moment. There are a few Gallardo race cars. Very much love seeing those. We've got the trio of SCV12s just here. Obviously those are absolutely wild. As you can see, case in point, look at the car that greets us just here. You can see that elongated shape based on the V12 platform, unrestricted, totally bonkers in every possible way. When the rulebook is thrown out, that's what Lamborghini can create. But then over this way, another Gallardo, we have the Diablo GTR tucked in over there at the corner, another SCV12, and then we have one of the era of Lamborghini in Formula One back in 1991 when they took part as the Modena team effectively for one season. One of those right there. So quite the display, I'm sure you'll agree. Back over to the Technica, and I have to be honest, when I heard of the imminent arrival of this car, something to sit between the Evo rear-wheel drive and the STO, I wasn't expecting it to be so visually different. Now the Huracan, I think it's fair to say, has been around for a number of years, and through that lifespan there have been many different derivatives from the likes of the original LP610 through the LP580, the Performante, the facelift with the Evo rear-wheel drive, and then the STO was a complete departure. Up till then it had basically been bumper changes and small details. But obviously this goes, I think, even further for, let's say, the middle positioned car in terms of these Sian style elements up front here. Obviously not as dramatic visually as on the Sian, but given it's the entry supercar to Lamborghini's product portfolio, obviously the Evo rear-wheel drive, then the Technica, and then the STO, that's right in terms of the positioning. But to have changed the shapes back here on the rear deck, to have adjusted this configuration, to have that flatter rear deck and the way this is all opened for the airflow management, for example, all heavily reworked, significant changes. And from my own experience with the STO and driving it on the road, I know that it's aggressive, it's firm, it's quite fidgety, you have to be on it. And this is going to be a more versatile offering, which I think will suit the uses of many in comparison. To have some luggage space, to have something with a slightly softer ride, and to have something that's slightly more usable overall. And no doubt, once we start to see all of these cars in their different color combinations, they absolutely do the part. The one thing Lamborghini get right every time is creating something that stands out, that's a bit different, that's out there, and this is exactly that. A very different proposition, I think, to the previous Edizione Tecnica over a decade ago, but now the Huracan Tecnica is here, it's arrived, and we've been able to have a full first look. So I hope you've enjoyed going through all of the details of this car. I look forward at some point down the line to hopefully getting behind the wheel to see what it's like to drive, but for now, that's it. The new version of the Huracan, the Tecnica, is here. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!